All right. Morning, guys. All right, so welcome to the welcome to Let's Talk About It, and this is episode 2. And today we're gonna be talking to a few persons that work within the BPO sector, or what Jamaicans call call center, for the most part, and we'll be hearing what persons have to say. We'll be exploring salary, the work conditions. Is it worth it? Because it's a booming sector. And is it worth it? Is it worth it? Is it worth it? So we'll be having a few guests on. Um, Go ahead and share the link. Share the link. Invite as many persons as you want to. And we will most definitely get this show on the road. All right. So invite some people. Let's go. Let's go. I'll give you a few minutes. So we'll take a few minutes, just invite some people. Remind person that this is the best morning show every Friday at 8 a.m. I want to say shout out to MR, always supporting everything. So let's go, guys. Let's tweet about it. Let's talk about it. Share it on your WhatsApp. Share the link. Share on Telegram, wherever you are. Let's get some people on. So we'll take a few minutes, get some persons on. A lot of persons from call centers reached out to me. Hopefully they can get to join. Some might be at work, some might not. So hopefully they can get to join and get to voice their opinions. Share their opinions with the world so we can know what is really happening from the employee's perspective, not just from a general open perspective. So let's get it out. All right, so let's get a few minutes to actually get some people on. All right, guys. I wanna say let's get this show on the road. All right. So as more persons come on, they'll be able to go back and listen from the beginning of. They'll be able to listen from the beginning of the live. Also, the live is being recorded, so most definitely, it will be reposted on our YouTube channel where you can go and listen it, get the views, still leave your comments on it. All right, so you're able to participate in in the conversation. Feel free to raise your hand, or signal that you want to participate, and we will allow you to voice your opinion so you can speak at free will. All right, so um, David, and I added you as a speaker, but your mic seems to be muted.
I mean,
Okay. Also, I know that someone else asked to be a part of the panelists. Let me just double check. Okay, all right. Okay, all right, he's here. All right, so as more people join, like I said before, persons will be able to go back and catch whatever they missed at some point, because the session is being recorded. Um, and if you work at a call center, or if you have any questions, because most of the persons here today, I'm assuming that they will work at a call center, or maybe interested in working at a call center because they want to get some information. So we just want to get the accurate information out there, because persons say, you know what, call center come in like a jail, a prison work, a sweatshop. So from someone who works at a call center perspective, um wait, are you okay? Awesome. All right. So, from someone who works the call center's perspective, I would like to get your views on this. So David,
yes, sir.
all right, can you give, quickly introduce yourself? And let persons who, well, I'm assuming that some persons may know you because you seem to have been in the. From what we spoke about earlier, you were working in the sector for a little while,
Yeah.
before you left. So introduce yourself for those persons who will not know you, and person who will listen to this after, and we can get the ball rolling into some other things. And remember, guys, if you're listening and you have a question, you can just select that little option that says you can raise your hand and ask a question, and will allow you to ask your questions. All right. So let's go. David, take the floor.
Yeah, so David Bartlett is the name. I had been working in the call center for about 8 years. Um, I have a mixed opinion about the benefit of working there. But I'm now an entrepreneur, doing my own business, where I develop trainings and invite companies to be up to have that training done in their own companies as well. I got the idea from being a part of training in the call center industry, and I realized that there was a huge gap between productivity and the actual training that they receive. So, people development and personal development is a big part of what I do now. But like I said, I've worked in the call center in various positions for the past 8 years. I left this year. Um, Finally, kind of just said, I'm tired of the journey in that sphere. Um, so I kind of just moved on to my own thing. Yeah.
All right. So one of the key things that a lot of persons have said over time is that call centers is like sweatshops. It's tired. Persons are tired. They work long shifts. They don't get breaks. What is this true? Because I don't know. Some person them enjoy it. From what I've heard, some person say no. Why sweatshop? They don't get lunch breaks. They don't get this. They don't get that. Call centers hold on to your incentive. Um, I don't know anything about it, but as I learn more and as I hear from persons, I decided that listen, I want to hear from persons that are in the field to say, listen, this is true or this is not true. Because I want to know if somebody decides that, listen, if somebody listens to this at some point and say, no, I want to join the BPO sector, working one of these call centers, is it worth it? Is it really a sweatshop as they say it is? Or, do you lose, have you ever lost countless time offs and lunch times and break times?
So your experience can vary. For me, my experience was varied. I have, like I said, been in it for a little while, so I've been through what I consider to be the worst of it, and I've seen where the company, the actual center, regards its staff and its agents and the people, highly and value them highly, and they put things in place to encourage them and to facilitate them feeling comfortable and so on. So I've been in the two spheres. It is definitely, I would describe it as a coin toss when you're coming into the call center industry, especially if you're brand new, right? If you're looking to get into the call center industry now, there's a myriad of jobs, myriad of opportunities. And I would say if it's worth it, it's going to be worth it based on what you are trying to get, where you're trying to go, what you're trying to do. But for a lot of people, they're going to experience the hardships of the industry. It's the nature of the game. It's a lot of demand for a lot of work, and a lot of the companies don't have the rugged infrastructure to facilitate, a lot of the dynamics that are playing, especially in the young people. So I would have said, is it worth it? For me, I don't know that it was. For others, I've seen a lot of people benefit greatly, buy them car and get a house and move up in life and stuff like that. And you can definitely make money if that's what you're trying to do. Yeah, if you're trying to supplement your income and you have your own vision, you're trying to go some. I definitely recommend getting a side gig as a call center agent. If you're moving up into supervisor roles and so on and so forth, where you get a little more money, a little more responsibility, and you can add and pad your resume, it may be worth it for you. Outside of that, for me, I think it's really about your agenda, what you're trying to do, and how much you can stomach a lot of what the inevitable conditions are in the call center.
All right, you use at the end there, you use uh, you use a very harsh sentence. How much you can stomach.
Yeah,
Can elaborate a little bit more on that for me?
yeah. Well, it's really simple. There's a lot of this stuff that you have to deal with in the call center that not even the contact center itself is in control of. It's determined by the client. Yeah. So like for instance, you work with a client who an overseas client who requires you to be, at the station, and you get very little time off. Like you get a 15-minute break and a 30-minute lunch. Yeah. And then you have to deal with 72 calls within a time sphere between the breaks and so on and so forth. That's a very high volume that is not determined by the contact center. Those are conditions that are fixed. The pay is what the client determines the pay to be. So you can ask for a raise of pay all you want. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. So I've been in situations where we're asking for a raise of pay and we get that nice, very sugar-coated pushback. We're not doing the work, we're not meeting targets, and so on and so forth. But when you do a comparison with the workload and the compensation, you realize that you are asked to be more, to become more, while still getting paid at an entry level. At an entry level. So the conditions are some more often than not fixed, and you have to determine in yourself whether or not you can deal with that. And if you can stomach it. As I said, you can muscle through and get what you're getting. And if you can't, what you find happens is a lot of migration from one call center to the next, trying to find that ideal situation where you can be comfortable.
Okay, all right. I see Julian making a request to speak, so let's hear what Julian has to say. All right, Jody, go ahead. Jody. All right, she muted her mic.
Hey guys.
She raised her hand and then muted her mic. Yeah, hi, Jody, go ahead.
All right. So I do agree with you somewhat, David. But in regards to the conditions, I would more say, I would think it's kind of almost at this point an unwritten rule amongst call center workers. In terms of the conditions, I would say, based on my experience over the years, the conditions, a lot of times it may seem like it's coming from the clients, but oftentimes it's actually from the actual managers and overseers that are delegated to make sure that everything runs right at the call center. The operation managers, I more would feel like it's coming from the people that are actually in Jamaica, because oftentimes the clients themselves, they may be rigid in a lot of ways, but I find that a lot of clients, especially from overseas, they're actually not as rigid as we may think. A lot of times the strictness and the rigidness actually comes from the managers themselves, and nothing's almost, I wouldn't want to say they're out of line, because a lot of times they're just trying to do their job and just over deliver, but a lot of times that over delivering comes at a sacrifice to the workers. So they may say, hey, client, we can get, for example, say you're just doing, we can the client may say, hey, I just require 20 calls per day. Say, just for example, they say, okay, I just require 20 calls per day. The manager or whoever is in charge of that account may say, okay, we'll do 20, but here what we'll do even better. We'll even give you 50 calls per day. And this is all because they're trying to seem more palatable or more, more better. I guess in terms of even just competitiveness, they're trying to seem, a little bit more competitive than the other countries that may offer the same type of service. So they may say, oh, we want 20, but they'll be like, oh no, we can give you 50 calls. And this always comes at a detriment to the workers that are working for that company. They may not even know about the situation, but a lot of times that happens, and the workers end up getting that part of it. So I honestly, oftentimes see that happen over the years, and I would more say a lot of times the clients actually, they have their requirements, but it's not unachievable. It's not too far fetched. A lot of times, it's not too way past the bar. A lot of times, those that push comes from the people that are actually working inside the call centers, that are controlling the call centers. That's just my opinion and what I've seen over the years.
Wow, that is interesting. Thank you, Jody. All right, so we have Roy online as well, who also wants to give his view, his take on the matter. Roy, what do you have to say about this? Martin, I see your request. We'll get right to you right after Roy. Go ahead, Roy.
All right, morning everybody. My name is Roy Livingston Plummer. I have been in the industry for quite some time, so I can relate to both Jody and David, particularly both sides of the fence. I do understand particularly where Jody is coming from, where the client has a realistic expectation because as we are as well, we're people. So we expect our teams or whoever we are employing to deliver a certain amount. It's something that they can manage. That point that she made, as managers would like to overstep or overpromise or over deliver, writing checks that their workforce necessarily can't cash. Um, Asking them to perform as she said 2.5 over the amount or the amount that they asked for, trying to say, yeah, my team is the best and we can do this and you should trust us and give us your money. Give us more business so that we can continue to make more money is really the idea or the main pushing force behind that. You want to reinforce this confidence that the clients have in you. Um, how that doesn't trickle down to the workforce is that they don't take into consideration the different types of workers they have, the various types of motivations that they have, the reasons why they're being the reasons for being there, how it is that they will cope and deal with the different situations that they will have. As David so eloquently put it, the 15-minute break time and the time in between that and the 30-minute lunchtime, which is nearly enough to get the break that you necessarily need to deal with the 72 calls that you would have gotten in between that. To speak to David's point, however, that is a very real thing where the client provide an unrealistic expectation and to not lose the business that they over delivered for management will accept that term without fighting back or any pushback. That could be for various amount of reasons. Could be that the other sites that this client has are performing at that level and they want you to maintain that level of productivity and efficiency to keep the company going at the same rate that it is, or even better. Or they want you to be the guinea pig for a different bigger goal because it's been tried and proven that it can be brought up to a certain point. Now they want to be better. And you yourself, with the promises that you said that your team can leap buildings in a single bound, you can definitely knock this out of the park. And us being the agreeable society that we are, saying, yeah, man, we would like a business. Yeah, man, just tell what you want and we will do it. Don't worry about that. We will worry about that part. Just tell us what you want. We will deal with the people. The management is terrible, absolutely terrible. Being in support and being on directly in the workforce, I had a taste of both cakes. So I definitely know the lack of communication is ridiculous. And then that is just backed up by this high expectation from both management and the client. So you as an employee will always feel trapped. You'll always feel like you're under delivering, even when you know your stuff, even when you make a small mistake on situations that you yourself cannot control. If it's a chat account, somebody comes on the chat, they're impatient and they can't wait the 2 minutes for you to respond or the 1 minute for you to respond. That gives you a negative impact. You could have been performing stellar the entire day. And that situation that you could not control because one person was impatient will mar your not only your day, but your performance, your money, everything that was tied to that one instant, something you can't control. That stress isn't that stress is personal and you should deal with that yourself, but it's not taken into consideration by the people that you're working for. Everything should just be pushed to the side. They have mottos like quit taking it personal because like they want you to still provide a personalized experience to customers. However, not taking anything that they say personally because it's a professional experience. But you yourself are a person. If somebody tells you in German that, you tell you about your part, you yourself want to respond efficiently and like, I want to tell you about your parts in Jamaican too. However, I want this money. So I'm not going to tell you about your parts, but I still have this rage inside of me that this 15-minute break cannot quell.
So that's what you guys get for break. 15 minutes. Well, is that like a general? Is that a break or is that lunchtime? Because
All
Um,
right,
I
15 minutes.
I'll answer that, Roy. Hey guys, morning. Thanks again for the shout out, Alex. All right, so what it is this. The break and lunch is set off on an American standard. In America, you generally get 1 or 2 15-minute breaks and a half-hour lunch. Because of our legal rules here, we are guaranteed 1 hour lunch, and then they kind of just give us the breaks in between. So that's how in a regular work day, in regular corporate Jamaica, it's at, you know, you get 8 hours versus in a call center life it's 9 hours because we have to give them back that hour that we took for lunch, and it's generally an unpaid thing. So the break, those 1 or 2 15-minute breaks, is just an American thing that has trickled down to us. And then you do have some accounts that force you to take that half-hour lunch based on what the client has requested or advised. So what those companies will do is give you your half-hour lunch and give you your 2 15-minute breaks, and it is subsidized somehow because again we are by Jamaican law supposed to get an hour for ourselves for lunch.
but all right. So I have a quick question with this, right? Because I am trying to see if I get this right. Because in general workplaces, I have worked in corporate, well, in government
All right.
institutions.
So
I've worked
corporate
for
government, you work 8 to 5,
corporate government.
right?
Yeah, man. So
So
that
1 hour
means,
lunch, 12 o'clock. Cool.
yeah, I don't know. I would have worked 9 to 5. So
Nine
it's
to
the
five.
same 8 hour work day, but I still get my hour lunch and I get
Right.
paid for that hour. So
So
are you saying that?
we get 8 to 5, and 1 hour of that is ours. You get 9 to 5. 1 hour of that is yours. So you see
Yeah, but
where I have
so
an hour more.
yeah, but and that hour you don't get paid for that hour.
Correct. You get paid for your hour lunch. What some companies will do is give you a lunch subsidy, which is generally a fraction of your hourly salary.
That is very interesting. Wow. Wow. I know that MR is online. MR has a question. MR, he was messaging me on WhatsApp and I said, "Listen, join the live, man."
Check your
So
WhatsApp as well. I sent you something.
yeah, man, I see it. I'll get to it shortly.
I'm here. I'm here. Morning, everybody. Um,
Morning, morning.
so this was actually my third question, but I'm going to ask it first since, as you mentioned, like the whole American lunchtime and things like that. Do like the companies pay in like the same pay like the call center the same US rate, and then when it comes to Jamaica now, that hourly rate is trickled down. Do we have a case like that? Because I'm aware of a situation where like what do you call it now, an employee and a manager probably regular conversation, and the thought process was behind this was like I can't envision the regular Jamaican making $300,000 per month. And my next question is, how much is it? Like I normally see it on social media where they say like I work at call center makes $200,000 a month, $300,000 a month. Outside of a supervisor or manager role, how much hours does an individual has to put in to get to that income level?
That is a loaded question. All right, that can vary. That's off on one. Does your account give unlimited overtime? Two, is your account 24/7? Three, what is your base rate? Four, what is your overtime rate? So as you know, you work a 40-hour work week. So let's say your base rate is 500, right? So you work $500. Once you meet that 40 hours, you're getting $500. Anything over that is calculated at time and a half. So that's 750. So let's say I go to work at 8 a.m. and I go all the way up to 12 a.m. So I've met my 8 hours and then I'm doing the rest as overtime. So that overtime is calculated at 750 for the rest of the time that I am at work. So if I can pull that off, let's say 5 days a week, I work 8 to 12, and then I max out on all my KPIs, meaning I meet my adherence, whatever metric it is that that client has, and I get my bonus and I max that out. 200, 300,000 is feasible for an agent to make within a fortnight or within a month.
Wait, 400,000 for 2 weeks?
Yes, I've seen where, and Roy can confirm this as well, where we had a coworker. He had a goal and he logged in 8 a.m. to work every day for I think 3 or 4 months,
Oh,
and he met his KPIs
wow.
straight through. Because once you're at a certain skill set, at a certain level, you understand the metrics and you understand how to manipulate them, and you know how to cover those unvariables that Roy mentioned, where one customer come and give you a negative survey, or you didn't make a sale or whatever. Because of the volume of what he was taking, he was able to cover that regardless. And then him just tax beat him
Okay,
out some height, but it meet him goal, because again we have our tax calculators, so we know how much we're paying for tax before it even hits. So that's him pushing aside all the
okay,
human
awesome.
requirements, like him taking lunch at him desk, or him taking 15-minute breaks, him have him snack in him locker, run go upstairs, mats up 2 crackers, come back downstairs, log back in, do what him supposed to do. I think he's here on the live too.
That is that is interesting. All right, hold on a sec before we get to that person. Well, if they want to speak, they can raise their hand, and I'll definitely add them as a speaker. I see. Let's see. This is Immaculate for Girls. I've added you as a speaker, so you can go ahead and speak. Ask your question. I see your hand raised for a while.
Hi, everybody. Morning. I can only speak from an agent's perspective. I've worked at like 3 different call centers within the last 3 or 4 years. As it relates to like comparing like US, like what the US agents make, like the agents that live in the US versus what the Jamaican make. So for where I work, we're making like $2 US per hour, and for the same exact job that my friend used to work at a specific call center in the US because she lives in the US. She's making $10-12 an hour, and I'm making $2 doing the exact same thing that she does. Yeah, that not really much, so that don't really make sense to me.
I'll explain that for you.
The thing, okay, yeah, I can understand that it just don't make sense. I'm doing the same exact. I'm doing the same exact thing and more than what she's doing for the same exact job, and then I have to be the one to tell her that, hey, you can do this or you can do that instead, or she's like, oh, there's a whole different queue for that. I don't handle that, and I'm like, I handle this, that I handle like 5 times, like a 5 different queue. Like I'd have to handle everything, and you're getting way. I'm not like necessarily quote unquote bad minding her. I'm saying that logically cannot make sense because I am doing way more work than you, getting way less than you. Like I'm literally getting $2 something per hour, and you're getting $10 per hour for doing less work because you live in the US. It's not my thing. Also, as it relates to the lunchtime thing, I know for one specific call center, you get a 1 hour lunchtime. And let me explain how that works. So you get 30 minutes for your lunch, and then you get 15 minutes for your break. It's not you get a 1 hour to eat lunch, and then you get 15 minutes. You get a 30 minutes for your lunch. You should eat your lunch within 30 minutes. Get back on the phone because you're paid for every second or every minute, and that really matters. So if I'm supposed to be on a call, like let's say my shift ends at 5 p.m. and I'm supposed to be on a call till 5:15, I'm not getting paid for those 15 minutes. But if I miss one single minute out of the 8 hours, I'm not going to get paid for that 1 minute I miss, and that doesn't make sense to me either. Like it's not my fault that the call come in at 4:59, and my shift ends at 5, and I'm not going to get paid for the 15 minutes, and I have to answer that call because that would be call avoidance. Yeah. How is that? Yeah, that don't make sense. Our call refusal, and I'm not going to be paid after my shift has ended.
So
that makes sense.
that's on you, because once you're working past your shift, you should be compensated. That is labor law that your company is in violation of, right? So that is between you and your superiors to submit that overtime, and you should be paid for your overtime. Anything that you're working past your shift, you have to get paid for. If it is that they're refusing to pay you past your work shift, it is not call avoidance. You should definitely reach out to a supervisor or someone and say, hey, it is after my shift. I am heading home. Someone needs to take this call from my line. You are not forced, or you should not be forced in any way to work past your shift if you do not have to. And we're
certain, like you lose your job if it's call avoidance. You can lose your job.
You're not avoiding the call. You take the call and then you pass it on to the relevant persons who are working at that hour. It is for us to stand up together and to defend our rights. If it is that you're not being paid, that is a HR matter, and then you can go down to the Ministry of Labor and Security and discuss that with them. What you mentioned before about your hours versus your US friend counterpart, each state has a different minimum wage working. So someone in Miami versus New York will get a different hourly rate based on where they are. We are outsourced here. Our minimum rate is $175 or something like that. Whatever that $9,000 that government says is minimum wage is worked out to be. So legally, they can pay you that based on whatever contract they have set up with your client. Okay? So that is how the disparity is. And as an American citizen, you are skilled to one queue, and because you're trained for one queue. Out here, you are trained for multiple queues and skilled for multiple interactions, just as what Roy advised earlier. I'm not sure if you caught that part, where the supervisors or clients or the managers out here overpromise on their workforce and what they're capable and able to do. So your American counterpart would, let's say they work for Amazon, they would be just trained in retention. But you working for Amazon here, you're trained in retention, registry, whatever line of business Amazon has out here, and you can be skilled to do dual role, meaning that you can take both chat and voice, versus your friend who is only taking one of the either.
So
There's an overhead cost that the company incurs by getting you a laptop or desktop monitors, and all of that infrastructure that they need to pay for, the fiber optics, the internet, the electricity, the rental on the building that they charge.
But they do that in the US too. They do that in the US. So what's the difference here? Like, they need to set up work. They set up work in the US and they set up work in the company. It's just cheap labor. That's what it is. Cheap labor.
We are cheap labor because, again, we have to compete with not only what's in the Caribbean, but other English-speaking countries, the Philippines, Central America. So again, we have to project ourselves and make ourselves more attractive to these persons to garner or get more work or keep the client happy. So,
but let me tell you, I almost got a job at a different call center, as in I worked for. So I'm a private contractor per se, and they were paying me like $1,700 US for the month to do way less work than if I was I'll do way less work than I'd had to do at my previous call center. And it's the same thing. I'm working with Salesforce. I'm working with the same exact applications. I'm doing way less work for $1,700 US for the month. And what would I make at that call center? Let's say 60. And if your account does not have sales, like if it's not a sales account and you get compensated based on the sales you make, then you get a flat rate, and the overtime is crazy.
The key word for that is private contractor. You have negotiated with them that $1,700. This BPO that you're working for would have negotiated your work on your behalf and taken their cut. So yes, you will get less from a BPO.
So my question is there a case where the budget is actually $5 per hour, but when it comes down to paying the Jamaican agent actually get $2 per hour? Do you
more
have
like
cases like
$30 or $25-$30 per agent, and then you get your cut out of that after they've taken what they need off of the top.
All right. I see that Roy is trying to say something. Go ahead, Roy.
I was trying to touch both points some of the points that Martin said earlier as it regards like how the pay was broken down regarding the $2 versus what we're getting. The person in the US would be getting their $10, $15, $12 an hour. When it's negotiated for us, we're going to get it at say $10 an hour, and then we get out of that $10, $3. They take that $7, and as Martin said, they pay the light, they pay the ancillary stuff. If it is that they are not getting specific funding, and they bring on caterers onto the venue to provide you lunch, they pay it out of that. Rentals for vending machines, they pay it out of that. That is why when they would like to do, say, something for the agent, it's always, we don't have any more money, we didn't get any money from the clients, and we have to reach out to the client. They don't want to ask the client specifically for more money because they know that the amount of money that they have received, or money that they may have been given for a specific occasion. So like say you met a target, or the whole team or her production team meets the target, and you're supposed to be rewarded with a bonus. A lot of the immoral behavior that happens in the call center industry falls from this situation where a cut would be taken from that money that was put aside. Whoever is in charge of it may divvy it amongst those they deem necessary, and the rest is then used in, let's say, a pizza party. So that's easily just $10,000 being spent on like pizzas and sodas for the whole production team. You guys enjoy this one slice of pizza and then go about your life, and this $30, $50, $60, $70,000 that was allotted is nowhere to be seen, and you don't know about it because you're not the white one.
Exactly. Plus, you have what is called billable versus non-billable hours. The time that you're on the phone is what is billable hours. So when you're taking your break and or your lunch, the BPO cannot charge the client for those billable hours. So that's why I'm saying that once you're working past your shift, that is a billable hour that the BPO is pocketing on your head because they're not paying you for it. Once you're working, that's a billable hour. So if you log out and take a bathroom break, a regular break, a sick break, whatever, you get an emergency phone call downstairs, the client isn't billed for that because the BPO cannot charge for that. Hence, you cannot get paid for that. They don't make any money from that. So once you're on the clock, once you're on the phone working, that's a billable hour, and they're paid for that. So there things like training and all of that other stuff is based on the client can be considered billable hours, but also most BPOs take on that charge and pay that again out of pocket. So all that 2-3 weeks of paid training, any up training that or cross training that you're doing, most of the times that is not considered a billable to the client. So the BPO is paying you for that.
Can
All
I
right,
just
so
say,
I
if
have a statement I want to make.
all right, hold on a sec.
Yeah.
All right, so Martin, sorry, Martin, David, and Roy. I know that you guys have had loads of experience in the field. So one of the questions that I get that I've been asked to ask is where generally is the starting salary? Because I hear that salary is being thrown around at $2 or $4 or $10 or wherever, and I know that depending on where you start in any company, the level that you start will determine a part of your salary. But the question is, like, I am starting from the ground because the requirements now is like 3 CXCs and sometimes no experience and that kind of thing. If I'm starting from the ground, can someone tell me what my starting salary might be at this point? Say I want to join, don't know anything about call center work, but look like something can keep me out of trouble. And someone said to me that people don't want to turn call center work on more because the government offer more money to shut us out the road. But call center workers, I want to be a call center worker. I have 3 CXCs, maths, English, and something else. Where can I start in terms of
Food and
salary scale?
nutrition.
So you want us to answer the question? Where would you start?
Yeah, on a basic, because I know, for example, Martin has been to at least 3 or 4 centers, because I know him personally. But I guess you guys would have over the 6 to 9 years between you and between Roy, David, that the conversation that I've had with you guys, I realized that between that time period, the 6 to 9 years that you guys have in this sector, what's the starting salary like? Would you say it starts at that minimum wage that the government says minimum wage is now $9,000 starting April 1st? Is it better than minimum wage? Is it right there? Is it worth the time that you're putting in?
All right. So you have a situation, right, where entry level in a call center, and this is generalization, right? It might vary from call center to call center, but generalizing, you have entry level pay, which is anywhere, right? And this has been my experience with not only getting that pay, but being having to train other people on that pay as well. Anywhere from $15,000 a fortnight to $25,000 a fortnight. Some places you will have 32 as their minimum entry level or so on, 32,000. But they can get as low as 15 and as high as 30 or 32 and so on, right? For entry level. Suffice to say, the companies that are able to pay it on the higher end of the entry level generally are looking for people with a lot more than just 3 CXCs, right? So for a person who, like you described, had just 3 CXCs and they're looking to get into, stay out of trouble or whatever, their conditions might make an entry level job perfect, right? They're living at home with mommy, you don't have to pay rent or light or none of those things, and it's just an additional income in the house. That might be ideal.
But even so though, before minimum wage was raised to where it is right now, $15,000 for 2 weeks work of work was not even minimum wage. So that would be less than minimum wage at that point.
True. Fully agree with you. That's telling you, I'm giving you what the facts are.
No, 15 minimum wage was $7,000. It's now $9,000. So $7,000 a week for 15,000, you're $1,000 over the minimum wage.
Right.
So
right, exactly.
It's there. Right now, it would be
Yeah.
calculated at $225 an hour based on the $9,000 threshold.
Right.
So that's 22,500 or so for the fortnight.
Right.
And again, as I mentioned,
Mhm.
there's bonuses. Where a whole person don't make a bonus. I don't know of, right? And there is overtime in most cases. So there is the
Right.
ability. So you start out, yes, at $25,000 now, based on current minimum wage, but your earning potential is there once you're meeting what you're supposed to meet, and once you're not in a situation where the previous lady says she doesn't get paid for overtime. I don't know how that's possible. I'm still in shock for that. And you move on from there.
All right, I think the how that she doesn't get paid for that overtime. That's easy negligent money. Negligent money does. You get that call, you take that call. That's really the mindset there. I am not going to spend the energy at the end of my shift, just like it's at the end of your shift, to go find somebody else to go take this call. You have that call, you have the skill set. Let's deal with it and we can go home.
But I should get paid for it, ain't it? Like,
Absolutely.
Yes, you
should I
should.
not
Yes,
get
you should.
paid to take the
Absolutely.
call?
You should. Martin is
Absolutely.
correct in that regard. You should absolutely get paid for that. That
But
manager
how?
with that
But
mindset would
they're
not be the person to speak to about it. That manager with that mindset, not the person to speak to. Even if
it's
you
not
address
the
him about
manager,
it,
it's just a culture in the call center. It's not just the manager. You know that if your shift ends at 5, you get a call at 4:59, you take the call and you're not paid for the over the if you spend 15 minutes on the call, you're not paid for the 15 minutes. That's just I think everybody know. And when I like me with a logical brain I can think, I'm like, why am I not get paid for it? And it's like, oh, you should know how to manage your time well, and it's not my fault that a call came in at 4:59. So why
all
am I
right,
not
Mr.
getting paid?
Marcellus, at this point in time, I'm going to ask you specifically about this 15 minutes. Is it that at the end of the 2 week period, you're asking to be paid for that 15 minutes because the situation you're describing sounds like on average 3 nights out of the week you're going to have that time that goes over your shift. That time
Yeah,
accumulates over into an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Are you battling that I am not seeing this extra 2 hours on my shift?
yeah, like you're not, as in, it's a culture, you're not paid. Like, you just know that they tell you already. If your shift ends at 5 and you get a call last minute and it goes over your shift, I know for my account specifically, and that's not something I'm okay with. And I'm always in argument to say that why am I not paid for the 15 minutes? Because my account, they say they don't give overtime. So if you go over your shift, that's your problem. But at
All
the
right.
same time, I cannot not take that call because that would be
Call
considered
avoidance.
call avoidance or call refusal.
I think they've
So
answered the question. I think they've made it clear what your alternative is. They can't fire you because they don't pay overtime.
Mhm.
oh,
Right?
they
If they do,
can because
no, listen
they
what I'm saying.
can tell you you're
If
avoiding
they fire
calls.
you,
You have
if they fire
wrongful
you,
termination.
they're in violation of the labor laws, right? They don't pay overtime, right? So you're not
Let's be honest.
obligated to take that call. You're
Let's
not.
let's be honest
Right?
though. If she does go and pursue this labor
Wrongful
law, right?
termination.
Go
And
down
it's
to the
down for a bag of
ministries
money.
and report it. What do you think will
She'll be,
happen? It's one out
she'll
of
be,
it's one out of two things. They'll probably call down the employer to say, hey, what is happening? Da 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 da. But I'm just saying, most times most people aren't gonna have time to do all of that just for the 50. I understand if it is happening regularly, but the average call center worker, they are not gonna have time to follow up for all of that, plus be battling their company for
and,
employment.
And
So
and I agree. And even if they do,
even
even
on
if
a
they do
normal job,
lose,
non-call
even if
center job, most persons aren't going to do that. Mhm.
so
All right.
even if,
So then,
I
how
so
far
this
is
might
she
be,
willing to go? How
I
far is she
think
willing to go is the real question. Because if I and I know David and Martin can attest to this. In that same situation that he's talking about, where you're not getting paid, we have all three of us have seen at least 4 individuals fight for their money, and that is the
But
game changer in the
it's not
company.
worth
worth
it
it.
because at the end of the day, a
It's,
little
let
bit
me
of
tell you,
money.
you're
Like at
not
the end of the
fighting for that
day,
little bit of money. You're fighting to change the culture in that center. You're fighting for the betterment of everybody else that is there with you now and thereafter. If 5, 10, or 15 of you guys
but
correct.
go down to
Martin,
the ministry
you
and
Are
fill
spoke
out
there?
about
this report
earning potential,
and
right,
have them
Martin?
follow
All right,
up, it's
all
worth
right.
it. You're not going to take on this battle with the floor manager. You're not going to take on this battle with the operations manager. You're taking this directly to HR. And if they terminate you for this,
Correct.
Is
it's
there?
wrongful termination and that's a
All right.
lawsuit. And they don't want that.
So, guys, I have a question because I maybe this might be a really good discussion that should be brought forward to the Ministry of Labor. But are there any unions that represent call center workers? Because that might be something that might be needed to help to protect you guys from things like these where you're working overtime, you're not getting paid for it. Because a union would then approach the Ministry of Labor or the whatever authority should be governing that sector and say, hey, listen, this person works an extra 15 minutes 3 nights per week, and that's almost an hour. That's 45 minutes gone, and this person might be working late at night, and this takes up time from spending time with your child. This is inconvenient, and if this adds up for the month, it still adds up, even though it might not be a lot, but it still adds up in time. And like she said rightfully prior, that she doesn't get that overtime, but if she misses a call a minute before, she's scrutinized for it or penalized for it. So how do you think that we can change this culture? But before we get to that though, Tassie raised her hand like about 10 minutes ago, and I know that she has been eager to speak. So I want to hear from her view what she has to say though. Tassie?
Hi.
Yes.
Okay, so call centers. Wow. I have worked in a total of 45 call centers over my time doing customer service. I've been doing customer service for more than 10 years at this point. Started in 2011 to be exact at Xerox. Now, I think the call center in Jamaica makes great opportunity for people who wouldn't otherwise have it. So people who work in wholesales, that probably work in a little small restaurant, they'd have a better life working in call centers, right? But in 2016 I got a remote. 2017 I got a remote job, and I was working that job until the end of 2020, where I no longer had that job. And last year I went back into the call center, and it was jarring because when I left the call center, my last call center before I got that job, I was making $410 per hour in 2017. When I went into a call center in 2021, I was making $330 or $350 per hour, almost 4 years later, or exactly 4 years later to be. And that second stint back in call centers, it didn't have the same, I don't see it having the same value that I did when I was in it first. If you elevate, then yes, money is there, it makes sense, but most training batches, not less than 20 people coming in per training batch. Probably 2 people drop out per training. Probably after about a year, another 5 people leave. Still leaving 10 people, if I'm doing the maths correctly. That sounds like horrible maths, but besides the point. How many amounts of people are left? All of them not going to get promoted, right? Not anytime soon. And I remember specifically when I was working in my last call center, my team lead said to me, my team manager looked at me and said, listen, this place is a place to make money, but not as an agent. And I think that's what the problem is. I feel that over the years, the earning power of agents have basically been non-existent. Again, when I was in the call center, incentives were attractive. You could make 30, 40, 50. The first call center I worked in, the max incentive was $54,000 per fortnight. The account that I was on last year, the maximum incentive was $21,000 for the month. And I look at things like that and I say, I just don't understand why it is that we're going backwards. With the raise of minimum wage, it forces these call centers so now whatever I was earning, or not what I was earning, but the call centers that pay a lower hourly rate, it forces them to go up, which helps. But I don't think that any call center at all should be at minimum wage for the agents. Like if minimum wage raises, you're supposed to kind of say, well, I'm still get more than that, right? Because I feel like we're going back to the point where call center work no come in like if you're working at a wholesale. Call center work no come in like if you're working at one of those small restaurants. Whereas before it was a step up. I remember when I just entered the call center and somebody that was there as like a manager, they said, I remember when I was working in a wholesale and I did my first 2 weeks at a call center and I see my pay, I frightened. I couldn't know I could have made so much money. And it wasn't a lot of money, but it was just way more compared to what an average somebody with 3 CXCs would make.
And let's be honest as well, like you're so right, Tassie. Like even for persons working, in the government sectors, banking sectors, a lot of call center people actually do make way well, I wouldn't say, way over, but a decent amount over what a lot of those people are making, and a lot of them even look down on call center workers a lot of times, ironically. But also I wanted to just say, like, we might be looking at the minimum wage, saying, okay, the minimum wage is this. Call center workers should be paid a little bit above. But to be honest, I think people should be paid and compensated based on their jobs and the level of skill. And let's be honest, like a lot of call center jobs really and truly aren't just, the average Joe type of job. You have to be trained, and a lot of training sometimes may go up to 2 weeks, may go up to 1 month. I've seen training go up to even 3 months. So a lot of the average Joes that are out there that have degrees, that have all the bells and whistles when it comes on to job hunting and being employed, a lot of people couldn't do what call center workers do. And let's just put it on the table. Like a lot of call center workers really and truly should be getting paid more. And that's why a lot of the clients from overseas, when they do come to Jamaica or Philippines or wherever, they do offer a competitive rate. But a lot of the clients don't even know that the workers are getting a certain pay lower than what they offered, because they offer that rate. The client offers that rate because they know that the job that the workers are going to be doing is not anything short. Is not anything easy. So they try to make
I have
sure.
a little background on that. So, for instance, if the client comes and say, "Hey, Sutherland, we're going to give you $6 an hour per agent," right? Sutherland then goes around and looks at the agent and say, "Hey, we're going to go ahead and give you $3 an hour, and you have the potential to probably go up to, it will probably work out to $4.50 per hour once the incentive goes on top of it." The thing is with that $6 is that basically they take that $6. That $6 is what you used to pay your hourly rate, and then that's also the money that they use to put together your incentive. And then a lot of call centers, almost all call centers actually have a contract in which if it is that they do not hit certain metrics, they owe their client money.
Right.
So they then buffer. So they don't give you more than $4.50 per hour, so that they have that $1.50 per hour that if they do owe the client, they have that money. So basically they use agents run call centers. It's just plain and simple. Agents run call centers. It's not the team managers. It's not the qualities. It's not. If every single agent decides that this is enough and come off of the floor, they cannot make money.
Yeah, there you have that over delivering.
But they don't treat agents like the agent. They treat agents like, oh, we can replace, because we can. They can replace you because call centers are not unionized and enough people are look work. And that is just the fact.
That is true.
Can I just say? Let me just say one more thing. Okay. If I understand, where the managers are coming from. You want to make sure that your company is being run, it's being run right. You want to make sure everybody is compensated. But let's put it to the floor. I know, for some companies they may not get this, but I know for a lot of bigger companies, in terms of operation costs, the clients actually do provide some of that operational costs, right? They don't just provide you with just the pay of agents. Like, realistically, come on, they're not just gonna say, "Oh, here's the pay for the agents. Just do your thing." No, they do provide you some operational costs. Okay, I'm not talking like the small call centers that are coming off the ground. I'm talking the big ones. Let's be honest now.
Yeah,
You do
they
get some
definitely do have
operational
it.
costs. Wait, there's some operational costs put in there, apart from what the agents get. So if you
And that's what they
realistically
use
look
to,
at,
and that's what they
hold on,
use to pay their managers. And the thing about it is that the
hold on.
managers aren't.
If you pay your workers accordingly, right, you in the long term it will actually work out better, because why would you want to recycle your workers every 1 to 2 years? Why would you want that? Because in the end it won't work out for you. It'll only give you a bad reputation amongst workers, a bad reputation overall. Everybody will know, oh, don't go there, because they'll find the smallest thing to let you. And a lot of time, I've heard HR managers say, out of their mouth, oh, call center workers are only up to, you only want to keep them as much as 2 years. And I'll look to them and say, why? Because they don't want to be liable. They don't want to pay. And I'm just like, but shouldn't you want your workers to be there and want to work and want to be like, oh God, I'm glad I have this job. When people are happy, they perform better. It has been done at Google. It has been done at Apple. A lot of these big major companies, they've shifted that paradigm of making sure that the workers are happy. And it turned out way better. The workers are happy, the production will be good, and everything will actually, people aren't lazy, especially Jamaicans. We aren't lazy people. Okay, the only time that people are lazy is if they're not being compensated effectively. And the type of work that call center agents do is no easy feat. Okay, it's not easy, and they should be compensated as such. Don't look at them as, oh, you're just replaceable. No, you should compensate that person, because if you compensate them, they will want to do the work. They'll want to do it. That's all I have to say.
Well,
You see, as long
okay.
as they're,
Well,
That's a fact, though.
all right. So can we hear from this user? She has her username as "Give Me a Break," and then we'll hear from Emma. Is there a person who have raised their hands? I'm sure everybody wants to get their views in, guys. But let's share the floor because everybody may have a different experience, and we want to get to hear where there's an overlap in issues among everybody, because so far there are some overlapping issues, a few overlapping benefits, and then a few isolated issues along the way. So let's us hear from other users. Let's give everybody a chance, guys. I know that there's a lot and you have a lot to say, especially if you've been working in this sector for a long time. But want to just give everybody the opportunity to voice their opinion. All right. So user, that's if you have your person has their username as "Give Me a Break," you can go ahead. I've given you rights to speak, so you can just unmute your mic and go ahead.
Good morning. I'm not sure who mentioned the whole call center union earlier, but I would just like to ask everybody that's on the space right now if you could head over to Instagram and follow the page Behind the Calls. That would be a big plus in helping a group of persons here in Jamaica. And we are also working alongside an international team who are trying to start a union. Now, from what I have been exposed to so far regarding this whole union business, it's not something that our call center leaders want to happen in Jamaica. It's something that has been getting a whole lot of pushback. I'm not sure how many of us were able to see the snippet from Smile Jamaica the other day when there was the representative from the Bustamante Trade Union, as well as they had some feedback from an anonymous call center worker regarding the working conditions. For example, that was aired on Tuesday, and by the Wednesday, one of the major call centers made a posting, or an article was put out with pictures saying, does this look like what that person was talking about on Smile Jamaica yesterday? So there's a lot of pushback where the union is concerned. However, there is still a team of persons who are trying to get that union up and running, and a way that everybody on this space who is concerned with call centers, who has a problem with working conditions, who would like to see better working conditions for the employees, if you could just go ahead and give us a follow on the Instagram page Behind the Calls, that would be good. There are certain times where we reach out to persons based on DMs that we receive, because if we have no stories, if we have no evidence, it is hard for us to push for this union to happen. So we are trying to get persons who are willing to talk, willing to share their experiences, so that we can go to persons who have the authority union established. I have been in the call centers for over 5 years. I'm honestly going to say I have recently had poor experiences in the call center, but before it was not a shit show per se. The rate is always a concern for everybody. The title of the space is what made me actually come in. Is it worth it working in a call center? Yes, you can make $200,000 a fortnight, $400,000 a month, whatever that case may be. But the impact that it has on the majority of people mentally and physically, is it really worth it? 1 in every 3 females that work in a call center in Jamaica right now can honestly say they have had a UTI based on the fact that they are not allowed to come off the phone unless it is their break time or their lunch time to go and use the bathroom. These are things that we are trying as a small team to get out of the call centers. So if we can get the union up and running, and we are really hoping to get the union up and running, these are some of the things that we want to tackle. Better working conditions for persons and better pay rates. I don't believe that any call center in Jamaica should be paying an agent less than $5 US an hour, because again, when they go to the drawing board, they're taking $25 an hour for each head. $5 is the least that I think we should be paying our call center workers, and that's just my 2 cents. Again, if you can follow the Instagram page behind the calls, we would really appreciate it.
All right. Give me a break. If you can DM me that link, what I'll do, I'll repost it on Instagram. I'll also tweet it out here so that persons who may have missed the live would be able to at least see the link and get on. We're now gonna hear from Emma. She has been patiently waiting for a while.
Alex, I put it in the jumbotron. Like you should, yeah.
All right, go ahead, Emma.
Good morning, guys. Well, first of all, let me just say that I work at a call center. I've been at this one for 5 years. The capacity that I work in is not of an agent, though. But that particular capacity, right, has given me an opportunity to learn about the back end of the business. So I heard some people saying that, the clients would pay X money, but then they're paid Y. So I'm going to just provide an opportunity for you guys to ask questions or explain exactly why that happens. And I think that moving towards a union, it's a very much good idea, but it's also important to know these things, and maybe it will answer some questions as to why a union might not be working out. But let me just say that being in the call center environment for over a decade, it has been worth it for me. And let me tell you why. I've experienced personal growth as a person, but I've also experienced growth professionally. Because of a call center, I was able to, go overseas and meet with a client and learn about their business and win that business for the center that I work for. Now, mind you, the current center that I work for is not perfect, but I do know that they are trying their best to retain people. So I heard somebody mention that, they personally heard an HR manager saying that you don't want to keep these people for more than 2 years. So basically what happens is that the longer you're at that center, what they've moved towards is, raising your pay. So you know what your rate might be like in the next 2 years, unless, of course, it goes up even more. There are still certain things for them to fix, to be honest, but I feel like the main problem in many of these call centers are people. It's our same people, because people might move from an agent role to a supervisor role and they don't get proper training. And what happens when you don't get proper training? People get egotistical. People want to meet the KPIs and they feel pressured. And instead of having a conversation with their advocates or agents to explain exactly why those KPIs are supposed to be met and what the KPIs mean, they pressure them. So in turn, if you feel pressured to meet a particular KPI now, you're not going to like the job. You're going to hate it because you understand the work, as in providing information to your customers, but you don't understand exactly why you're pushed to meet HT, why service level is so important, for example, why quality is important. So all of these wonderful things. So from the back end of the business, right, there's a service level agreement. Mind you, I can speak freely about this because there's no secret. In the service level agreement, it normally states the specific KPIs that the call center itself would be required to meet. Yeah? Now, that specific rate that they pay per agent would be listed in that. But there are also other operational costs, like I think it was Jody that mentioned that, I'm not sure. Training is one, for example. Some clients do not pay for training. In addition to that, right, training attrition affects the business the most, because imagine you putting, say, $5,000 overtime within a year. Because remember that if you train today for 2 weeks, it doesn't mean that you're going to meet their KPIs in the next 2 weeks. So you have to have some room right there to meet the specific KPIs, say 3 months. But you also have an agreement say that up to a year, you'd be at a specific place. And it comes to the 3 months, you're still not meeting. Up to a year, you're still not meeting. You've lost X amount of people over time. You add up that money, you've lost a lot of money. So the turnover rate tends to be very high, right? It tends to be an environment that is high pressure, but it's also an environment that requires a lot of time management. For the person that mentioned that, okay, if she gets a call at the last minute and she stays 15 minutes over, she's not getting paid, that should not be the case. So if you want to tell me what center you work at, that's fine, because I know many of these managers, but that should not be happening. Some of these stupid rules, okay, no problem. I know a senior manager there. I can reach out to
Portmore Pines, to be exact. IBEX Portmore Pines.
no problem. But at the same time, yeah, because that should not, you can't control a call for coming in the last minute of your shift, right? And you can't control how long you take that call, because at the end of the day, my personal belief is quality over quantity, right? Unless you're not properly trained or you haven't grasped the training as yet, you might be on that call longer than you should be, but it shouldn't be a case where you're not compensated. It is definitely unfair, right? In addition to that, I want you guys to understand that in this same contract, it lists all of these, and yes, there are chargebacks. So if it is a case where you don't meet a specific KPI within a specific time and you don't have a proper reason as to why you didn't meet it, like if there wasn't a hurricane, for example, natural disasters and all of that, and you don't meet it, there is going to be an issue. They might have some chargebacks there, but also understand that this is a business, and with a business, they have to bid to get these contracts. And you know what normally happens? Why do you think they outsource? Why do you think they come to the Caribbean? Because they want to pay it cheaper. Here in the US, they might have to start off at a work at $22 or so. They can come to the Caribbean and pay $11. So if you
at $2,
you can, some call centers pay. I don't know how people work there, but I would never. You understand? But I can say that I've seen a lot of growth where I work, because in terms of the rate, a lot of people didn't find that very competitive when exit interviews were done. Statistics show that many people were leaving because of what they were paying. So they tried to raise it. But also, remember that they're tied into a contract. And if you agree that you're paying X amount, when you're going back to the client, to say that, look, client, people are complaining about the pay, we want to pay more. It doesn't always work in their favor. And because this happens at the back, many people don't know. If it doesn't work in their favor, they have two options. Either we keep this contract and keep these people employed here, or we lose the contract and we might have to, pay out a lot of money and fire a lot of people for them to find a new job. So I want you guys also to understand that other part. What happens with Jamaicans is that sometimes overall we settle. Yeah, we accept the cheaper rate. We bid because we want the business. And then what happens is that people might not be satisfied afterwards and we end up stuck in a rut. So that's what typically happens sometimes, because I've seen a case where there was this particular client, they were paying out X amount. They bid cheaply so that they could get the contract. And then when they went back to the client and said, look, client, people are leaving because of the pay, they're not satisfied. You know what client said? You promised me that you'd be able to work with X amount for over a period of time. So no, unless you want us to take our business elsewhere, we can't do nothing else. You have to continue paying this. In addition to that, I've also seen cases where they were paying out way less than they should be paying. And, the client got wind of that and they had to raise people pays. So both things happen. So there's a lot that goes on in the back. But I know that there are terrible experiences, because when I started out as an agent, I had really terrible experiences too. And it is a lot of work. I definitely agree. You have to learn a lot, especially if it's healthcare, for example. You have to learn about billing codes. You have to learn about pharmaceuticals. You have to be extremely empathetic. Even on your worst days, you could be going through a breakup and you have to be telling this person that, hey, you're going to try your best to help them. It's not easy. Mentally, it affects you. So I know people are having bad experiences, but I want you guys to think about the other part of it as well, because there's a lot that goes into it. And I'll leave it at that. But for IBEX, I know a senior manager there, so I can ask him about that, because that is total bullshit. It should not be
Emma,
happening at all.
can I say something?
All
Hello?
right,
Yeah,
all
go
right,
ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
All right. So for one, IBEX, right? It's okay to call it a name. IBEX do not pay. I was working at IBEX, right? Emma, like the shift, everything is off. You're doing long hours and you're not getting paid. One fortnight I got 16,000 for my pay, and I was showing up to work. I was maybe like 5 minutes late. I was doing everything, $16,000. Mind you, I'm leaving work. I'm going home to the teaching practice. It's pretty much hectic for me. They don't do anything for people. Like, all right, your shift ends at 2:30. Say for instance, your shift ends at 2:30, right? You definitely have to. If you get a call, you have to stay on the phone. Hey man, you ever see me coming and getting a pay? You know me though. You see, by touch 225, me start wrap up my keyboard. Me just set the mouse in. 2:30, the phone could have ring. Me not answer. You don't get no pay. Me cry every week. Me just left. Come here and say, this not worth it. Don't worth it at all.
So I have, what would I say, one question. What advice, like someone who has been through the worst and probably at managerial level now or supervisor level, what advice would you give to the other agents? Because let's be real, if we have 100 agents, only probably 3 will make it to supervisor role. What advice would you give to the other 100 agents?
Can I answer the question?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
man,
ahead.
anyone.
And after you've answered this question, we're gonna wrap up. So we're gonna allow persons just to give a quick 60 seconds. So persons that are coming on after you have answered this question, you have 60 seconds. So anybody who's on right now, if you want to say something, you can raise your hand, make your request, and you have 60 seconds to basically go over whatever it is that you want to go over. Tell us your experience. If you think it is worth it, working at a call center, and maybe we can do a part 2 to this some other time. But we are well over our 1 hour. We are well over our 1 hour slot that we had projected. So we want to just close off shortly, but we're gonna give everybody an opportunity to actually say what they want to say. Just voice it out, and I mean we can do this again. Most definitely. And remember, guys, if you're here every Friday morning at 8 a.m., we have this live. It might not be about call center, but we have different guests on every week. We have different topics. So remember to follow this page at Get Paid Daily, and remember to tweet out and follow up for more info. Also follow me on Instagram, so you can get updates as to if we're gonna do a part 2, if we're gonna maybe have the minister of the labor minister or something on board. Maybe I can try and reach out and see if we can get that, so you guys can have a feedback on what the laws are that protects you. All right, so go ahead now, and you can answer that question that MR just asked, and then moving forward, we will just give each person 60 seconds to close up and give their opinion. All right.
Yeah. So the question was, what advice would you give to somebody that's not being promoted, working in a call center, that based on their experience and so on? Number one is get the information. A lot was shared today. Martin and Emma kind of shared a lot more on the back end out of the logistics of it, in terms of the payout and how the variance is based in the States versus here and so on. A lot of that information agents don't know, right, about the service level agreement. So the first thing I would suggest is that you get the information. There's nothing worse to happen to you than being ignorant of something that you should know, because you're getting hurt by something that you don't know. Right? So get the information. Then also, once you start in a call center, everybody, I don't care who you are or how educated you might be, have a plan. Right? Have a life plan, something that you're working towards, that you focus on. Because you're not going to find fulfillment, right? 9 out of 10 times, you're not going to find fulfillment in the call center job that you're in, especially if it is entry level, right? That answer to the call of your life and where you want to be, you may not, right? It's very unlikely that you're going to find it in the call center. And then lastly, once you get the information and you have a plan, lastly, what I would say is educate yourself within the industry. Most call centers have an online university. They have situations where you can progress, school opportunities and so on. I would advise you to use those opportunities as much as possible. The conditions vary from call center to call center, but you have an ability, for the most part, to progress and to better yourself. Right? Use up the online university, use up the college situations if they partner with Heart and so on. Use up those opportunities and get those stuff in your system, in your space, so you can progress and be better. And what that does is you become attractive both to the center that you're at and to the centers that you would want to work at, where they want a little bit more in terms of qualifications and stuff like that. That would be my advice for people who are coming into the call center, who are in there now and looking to progress.
Well
Just
said,
to add to
David.
that, mentor within your center. Find a role that you might find attractive for the person in that role and say, hey, I'm doing these courses, I'm doing the university stuff. Can you be my mentor? Can you delegate some stuff to me in my off time that I'll be willing to stay a day or two later or come in a day or two earlier and get some hands-on experience within the role, so that when the position applies, not only are you completed the university stuff, but you have practical experience within the post.
I can definitely agree with you both as well, Martin and David. And for me, I might not be working as a call center anymore, but I can definitely say over the years, working there in that type of environment, as stressful as it may be, and guys, you should not shy away from stress in a lot of regards. I'm not gonna lie, because at the end of the day, it will equip you with the skills you need to handle other high stress jobs and high stress positions. And as you said, as Martin was saying, try to look for someone that you can mentor, that can be you can work under and pretty much just gain some skills. Don't look at that job as your forever job, because 9 times out of 10 it will stress you out. Just do your best, try to push forward and have a grown plan as to where you want to end up. And I must say, David, in some sense, you have positions there that you can actually be fulfilled. Like for say a trainer role. Trainers, I think, have some of the best roles in a call center, depending on where you work. But if not, and you don't want that, you can push forward and get to better positions outside of a call center. But yeah, it has its perks, it has its drawbacks. It can be better. But yeah.
Let me just answer there. Working at a call center, is it worth it? Yes, but in all experience that you have, know your worth. Know the rate that you're working with. Know the plan that you're going in with. Know exactly your own limit as a person to know when you're being pushed past your own limit, and know what is enough for you. Know what you need to know what to do to get what you need. If this is not for you, know that this is not for you. Do not think to jump from one ship into emptiness. Look for something else. While it is that you're doing what you're doing, provide the work that is being required of you as per contractual agreement. Do not overpush yourself for something that you do not think is worth your energy and time, and more importantly, your mental.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to touch back a little to the young lady that spoke about not being paid for times worked outside of her shift. As a person that works at IBEX and has worked in multiple roles, I want you to know that is not okay. It is not allowed, and you have to ensure that you escalate this to the HR team and to the relevant HR team so that it can be handled. I made sure to reach out to our HR manager and ask her if this is allowed, and it's definitely not allowed. You should be paid for every single minute that you are on that phone. So ensure that you escalate that through the correct path and not just to your direct manager.
Just wanted to jump in right now and congratulate you all for this forum. I worked in a call center in Canada, and it was I wouldn't say my best job because my background is tourism, but I was pleasantly surprised of all the jobs I had in Canada for the time I was there. It was the best job. And the rates were in line with the rates there. I bring this up simply because I'm a bit surprised to know that the difference here is so great. And I heard where the speaker who has worked in a senior level spoke to a lot of the ins and outs, which we were privy to being in North America. My encouragement to the team, though, now that I have my own business and understand even more the logistics of keeping it running, is to learn all you can and to grow so that as you grow, you will be able to become a better version of yourself and chart a path forward for what you really want to do with your life.
Does anyone else want to speak as we wrap up? Uh, this is your time to give us your final opinion, your final views, and if you think it is worth it working as a call center. Is the switch shop like this here, or is it good? You have 6 seconds to go ahead. For
I'm going to say that it can be worth it. Again, as everybody said, you have to know what you're going in there for. You have to know what your end goal is. Once you have, clear goals as to what you want to achieve from working in the call center, I feel as though it can be worth it if you have the right mindset, the right tolerance level, and at the end of the day, you have to know what's in it for you. I just want to ask Emma if you can DM me your opinion as to why you said earlier that maybe a union is not the best idea. I would really appreciate the feedback because, we're working for a better cause. So if we can get the pros and cons to getting the union up and running, that would also be a plus to helping us to figure out our footing and where we want to go where this is concerned.
As it relates to union, I think it would be great for call centers. It really would protect the employees.
That's all we're trying to do.
Oh, with the behind the calls thing.
Quickly, give me a break. No, I did say that the union is okay, but not having all the information before moving towards a union might be an issue. So having a union, yeah, sure, but all information is needed. Like you have complaints from advocates, but information is also needed about the back end of the business so that when you guys are moving forward, you'd have all of those details and understand exactly what's happening. Maybe educate some people as to why that happens because of course, as I mentioned before, it's misunderstandings mostly that causes some of the issues otherwise from egotistical managers and team leaders that just feel like they can bully you.
Thank you.
From my perspective, I just want to be an agent. I have no desire to be a manager, supervisor up there, quality. No, I just want to be an agent. For an agent, from an agent's perspective, no, I don't think working as a call center is worth it because the input and everything that I have to put in, it's not really worth it. I don't know if the universe. All right, I know I worked at a one of those telecommunications company. I don't want to call the name and get in any trouble, but the pay wasn't that great. But they pushed, like they, as an individual, they wanted us to grow. And although the pay never good, I enjoyed my time working there. Like the facilities were nice. You had people that offered to be a mentor. So the pay never 100, But I enjoyed working there because there are certain things that they did. Like they had the quote unquote company name universities. They could do courses. Like you could come at work on your own time and do courses. They could get you connected. They had like masters club where you could learn to debate. They had different clubs. They have social clubs where you could go out with the team and they build employees. I don't know the word I'm looking for, but they made the employees feel like they wanted to be at work. That's a Jamaican, not really Jamaican company, but you have the mobile companies, the two of them. I used to work at one of them, and that's how I felt while I was there. But it's the same calls that I'm answering to Jamaican customers. But as I said, the pay was good, but still, they made me feel like I wanted to work there. I never felt like a slave. I never felt like, HR was there. Anything they tell you that, hey, you can go directly to HR, or you don't have to go through a manager. Just go to HR or go straight to the operations manager, the operation manager for the call center on the phone. You just go straight to them, and if you have an issue, that wasn't my experience at like a IBEX, for example. But no, it's not worth it in my opinion as an agent, for an agent.
Okay, I'll talk since everybody said it. Yeah, so for my last word, I'll say working as a call center, it's worth it, especially if you're not doing anything. It's definitely worth it to have a job than to sit at home not making any money. But I feel like everybody that's going into the call center, you have to have a goal. I realize that most people that go into a call center with a goal, whether it is, okay, I need to make this amount of money and then I'll leave, or I need to be promoted by this amount of time, or then I'll leave. Those people, I tend to see them, they don't seem as stressed. They don't seem they know that they have the goal. If they can't reach it, then they know probably they need to be somewhere else. Or once they reach it, they'll be moving along. So it's like when you have a certain goal in mind, like say, okay, I want get the down payment for my house. I expect this to take 2 years. When you go in with that kind of mindset, it feels like because you're working towards that goal, all of the other stuff, all of the I can't believe I can't use the bathroom when more I use it. I can't believe it doesn't bother you as much. So you can't treat it as a job really because it's not the best job in the world, but treat it as something that helps you to reach towards your goals. Basically, I use my call center experience to build on that so that I don't have to work in a call center basically. And that was my goal and I made it. So it wasn't as horrible because I always knew that I didn't plan to stay there. So that's my advice. It's worth it, but the mindset is your mindset going in is a big part of how you will feel while you're there.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, so much, so much for joining. Thank you for all the persons who participated. Martin, thank you so much for your help. MR, thank you for always supporting. Roy, thank you so much for joining. I thank you guys so much for participating. Remember, every Friday, 8 a.m., different topic right here on Twitter. All right, guys. So I'm going to close this off by saying that I realize that there are mixed views on working in a call center, and I have my own views, my own personal opinions based on listening to everything that you guys have said. Hopefully we can organize for a part 2 with maybe someone from the relevant authority in government that they can actually respond to you guys and give their what are the laws that protect you and what you can do to maybe do better or get better results out of your work time, or even maybe someone from one of these call centers. I realized that a lot of IBEX employees were on today. So maybe we can reach out to someone there, actually have the views from IBEX so we can have an open view. And then you guys can jump on and ask your questions live as well. Again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. So used to YouTube. Go and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Get Paid Daily. This will be reposted there as well. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok as well at Get Paid Daily. And we'll see you next week Friday, 8 a.m. With a different topic. Look out for our guest speaker. We'll announce that by Monday. So just follow us here. Thank you guys so much again. All right.